Hi, everyone. My name is Abbie Dale, and this presentation is titled Beyond the Moratorium: Contemporary Case Studies in Global Whaling. In this talk, I'll summarize the findings from my research paper, exploring how whaling has evolved since the international moratorium and how cultural, scientific, and conservation perspectives continue to intersect in Japan, the Faroe Islands, and Arctic indigenous communities. Whaling began as a survival practice among coastal and indigenous communities. Over centuries, it became a global industry that severely depleted many whale populations. The 1986 moratorium on commercial whaling was a turning point that reshaped our relationship with marine mammals. Today, we'll explore why whaling still continues, focusing on a large scale, medium scale, and small scale example. Whaling has a long and complicated history that reflects both survival and exploitation. Indigenous communities, including the Inuit, Basque, and Japanese, relied on whales for food, tools, and fuel. Every part of the whale was used, from the meat and the blubber to the bones and the baleen. As technology advanced, European and American fleets industrialized whaling during the 17th century to the 19th century, using explosive harpoons and factory ships to increase efficiency. Whale oil became a valuable global source used for lamps and lubrication, while baleen was used in clothing and household goods. These developments led to a dramatic decline in many whale populations, including blue, right, and humpback whales by the early 20th century. In response, the International Whaling Commission was established in 1946 to regulate the whaling, and later implemented the 1986 moratorium on commercial whaling, a major step towards conservation. Despite the ban, commercial and subsistence whaling persisted in various forms. Since 1986, around 40,000 large whales have been killed, mainly by Japan, Norway, and Iceland. More than 100,000 small cetaceans are harvested each year for food and tradition. These hunts are most often justified as cultural heritage, scientific research, and subsistence necessity. Japan continues to be one of the most significant modern whaling nations. After the 1986 moratorium, Japan continued hunting whales under the International Whaling Commission's scientific exemption, claiming that the research was essential to understand whale populations and ensure sustainability. This included the lethal take of several hundred minke whales each year, along with smaller numbers of fin and sei whales. In 2014, the International Court of Justice ruled that Japan's scientific whaling program did not meet the accepted scientific standards. Despite this ruling, Japan withdrew from the IWC in 2019 and resumed commercial whaling within its own exclusive economic zone. The Japanese government continues to frame whaling as a part of national cultural identity and food security, even though international scientific communities emphasize that non-lethal methods such as photo identification and biopsy sampling can provide the same data. In the Faroe Islands, whaling takes a very different form through the traditional community hunt known as the Grindadrop. This practice has been a central part of the Faroese life for centuries and is deeply tied to their local identity and food sharing. Each year, several hundred to more than 1,000 pilot whales are caught in these hunts, depending on pod availability and weather conditions. The meat and blubber are distributed throughout the community and not sold commercially, which distinguishes the grind from industrial whaling. However, because pilot whales live in tight social pods, entire family groups are often killed at once, which raises welfare and conservation concerns. NGOs have also noted that mercury levels in the whale meat poses health risks, while Faroese authorities emphasize that the practice is sustainable and culturally essential. Indigenous subsistence whaling in Alaska and Greenland remains one of the most regulated and collaborative forms of modern whaling. Under International Whaling Commission Aboriginal Subsistence Whaling Guidelines, these hunts are conducted for food security and cultural reasons, not commercial profit. In Alaska, the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission works closely with federal agencies to manage harvest quotas, typically around 50 bowhead whales per year, with 40 to 50 landed. These hunts demonstrate effective co-management between indigenous knowledge and Western science, integrating traditional ecological practices with modern population monitoring. Unlike industrial or community hunts elsewhere, indigenous whaling illustrates a model of sustainability where cultural continuity and conservation goals coexist successfully. Across cases, strong governance and inclusivity directly improve sustainability. Indigenous co-management models like the AEWC achieve better ecological and social outcomes. Japan emphasizes autonomy over collaboration, while the Faroe Islands struggle between cultural tradition and animal welfare debates. Many data gaps persist for small cetaceans like pilot whales. Industrial nations such as Japan still self-report catch data, raising transparency concerns. Future research should expand non-lethal methods and apply two-eyed seeing approaches that blend indigenous and Western knowledge for better marine governance. Modern whaling remains a complex intersection of culture, science, and policy. Industrial hunts in Japan, community drives in the Faroe Islands, and indigenous subsistence whaling all illustrate that lasting conservation requires respect for both cultural heritage and scientific understanding. Thank you for listening.